Hi there, I'm Brad, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
We're a totally blind couple here in Illinois, and this video is going to be about how to grill with charcoal without sight. You know, as a totally blind person, and I think my wife would say the same, as a totally blind person, the question we get more than any other is, how do you ...
Do whatever thing.
Anything. Everything.
Including things that we won't talk about on YouTube.
Yeah, about that. So this is intended for the curious public, as well as any other folks who are blind or visually impaired who maybe have always wanted to know how to set things on fire and cook with them. That's a skill worth having, and I couldn't find anyone to teach me, so I kind of taught myself. Let's be honest. This is also for my father. This is being made in June 2019. Father's Day is coming up, so this is kind of my Father's Day present to him, as well as my godfather, and to my father-in-law. Let's not forget him.
Hi, Dad.
Right. So that's where we are, and I am also in a graduate program here in Illinois that is training me how to provide this sort of instructional service or similar things to various populations of blind and visually impaired folks. There's a track for adults, a track for working with kids, a track for orientation and mobility, technology, all that good stuff. So this sort of video kind of dovetails nicely with the sort of thing that I'm probably going to be doing for the rest of my working life, and that's just fine with me. So I hope you enjoy it, and for you folks without sight, I'm definitely going to try to describe as best I can, and if I stop talking, I'm sure my friend Alexis over here running the camera, say hi.
Hello.
Will help me with the describing so that you can enjoy all of the bloopers right along with everybody else.
So, what got you interested in grilling in the first place?
Well, I know this is gonna cause a debate in the community, but I do love charcoal a bit more than gas. The thing is, I've never really lived anywhere as an adult where I was allowed to have a grill. You know, a lot of apartment communities don't let you have them. And I've always wanted to learn how to grill with charcoal. I love the way it tastes, and I don't actually know any totally blind people who do it. I know they are out there. I've heard of a few, but I don't know any who do it. And I don't know any sighted people who have actually taught totally blind people to do it. So I was determined to learn this little skill and to put it into practice, and you have benefited from it.
So, what was that experience like for you, kind of being a pioneer, sort of the first in your circle to decide to do something and then do it with very little outside help? What was that like?
Fascinating, actually. I felt like I was at a disadvantage as far as information because a lot of stuff that's out there about how to do anything, grilling, driving a motorcycle, jumping out of an airplane, it's all very visually oriented. Lots of pictures, lots of videos that are long on images and short on description. So I knew I really needed to put my thinking cap on, read as much as I could about how sighted people do this, and then figure out the techniques that would work for me. And that's exactly what I did.
So, what do you think has been the most challenging part of doing that? And conversely, what's been the most rewarding?
Well, I'll be honest, the most rewarding grilling experience that I have had was my very first one. I decided to make it a high stakes thing, and so the first thing I actually grilled was a couple of steaks on our anniversary. It could have gone horribly wrong. It was my first grill. But to have those steaks turn out the way I wanted them, on the day I wanted them, with the people I wanted them with. So I had a friend up here that day.
Delaney, give that to me.
With the people that I wanted to be with that day, which is to say my wife, obviously. And we had a buddy come up from my home state for that weekend. He knows who he is. To have all of that really work out on my first grill was probably beginner's luck, but I felt very good about it.
Yeah, that was pretty epic.
Yeah, that was actually. The hardest part, you see, you did ask the hardest part. The hardest part is actually getting the fire going. I know that can be difficult for the sighted. That's a little harder without sight, but I'll talk more about that when I'm actually out there setting things on fire.
Great. So, what would you say to anybody else who's thinking about tackling something like this for the first time?
Do it.
Good answer. So, go do it.
Well, don't mind if I do. All right, so now we're outside. We're going to get this business going. Let me talk a little bit about the equipment that we're using, especially for the benefit of people with low or no vision. Okay? Let's talk about the grill first. What I have here is a little tabletop model by Expert Grill, and it has a top component. It has a lid. That's what it looked like together. It has a lid with a vent on it that you can use to control the airflow. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Lift the lid off by the handle. We have a cooking rack. This is what the food will eventually go on. Lift this out. We have a bottom rack. This is what the charcoal will rest upon. And then the bottom of the grill is think of it as a bowl-shaped container on a set of 4 short legs that is now sitting on the picnic table. Now we also have a bag right here of Kingsford Matchlight charcoal, which has lighter fluid on it. I just wanted to try that. That's not how I actually started out. I just wanted to give it a shot. I haven't figured out whether this means that I need no additional lighter fluid or just a little. So other equipment, we have a stick lighter here. It looks kind of like a gun. Has a long barrel. You don't want to light a match and throw it into your charcoal, and you don't want to light it with a cigarette lighter, because if the flames come boiling up, the first thing that you will cook is you. And I don't think you want to do that. We've got a bottle of lighter fluid here. Over here, I've got a set of grilling tongs and a grilling fork. So the difference for my friends who are VI and blind, the difference between the utensils you would use on a grill versus those you would use in the kitchen is weight and the quality of the material. So this grilling fork, the end is definitely going to be metal, not plastic. Plastic around fire I don't recommend at all. And the handle has a very solid non-slip rubber grip, so if I'm gripping the handle, it has a textured surface and my hand is not going to slip off it, because if it did, suddenly I'm grabbing the fork and the fork might be 400 degrees, and again, I'm grilling meat. Now, I want to say a little bit about how to start a fire. So I brought something out here that I'm actually not going to use. I'm just going to show it. The 2 classic ways of starting a fire are to either pour your coals over some kindling in the bottom of your grill. Some old bills will work nicely. And then pour your lighter fluid on and start a fire that way. Or you can use a chimney starter. And this is really great, especially if you have some vision or you can see, because you pour it, what it looks like it's what a big gulp cup wants to be when it grows up. Okay? It's a very large cup with a grate in the bottom, so don't try pouring your next rum and coke into this. And it has a handle that sticks out about 4 inches from the side and is an insulated handle. So think of it as a big cup with a grate in the bottom. You pour your charcoal in here, you put your fire starters or your kindling in there, you light your fire in this cup, okay? And it gets your charcoal burning nice and evenly, and it's a beautiful thing, I guess. Unfortunately, for the blind, it is also a very dangerous thing, because when I tried this, I had my charcoal burning in this cup. I had flames going over my head, probably because I had a little too much lighter fluid. And then when I let the coals burn down to a good temperature, I had to then pour this cup of burning fiery coals into my grill. There's no danger there, is there? And of course, once you pour them in the grill, you know, they're just kind of all over the place, and you have to take your tools and kind of organize your charcoal the way you want it to. Yeah. So my recommendation for the blind and for the visually impaired, for now, my recommendation is going to be build your fire the old-fashioned way. It's going to take you longer than it probably would with a chimney starter. It's going to take you longer, but I think on balance it's probably safer. I say that because it starts burning low and slow, so it's not getting as hot as fast, and you have the opportunity to touch on the charcoal, make sure it's doing what you want. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get the fire started. So I'm going to start the fire in the traditional way. All right, so let's set some stuff on fire. Okay, so I have my open grilling bottom, my open grill vessel here. I have lined the bottom with a piece of aluminum foil. I've done that because later on I'm going to have to clean up. And it makes far less of a mess and leaves far less for me to scrape off the grill if I can dump the ash out with the aluminum foil. So that's just a little cleanup thing that I like to do. And first thing I'm going to do is we're going to set the charcoal rack in the bottom of the grill, like so. Now, I've got the charcoal here. Got my box of fire starters, my kindling here, if you want to call it that. So now I'm going to pour into the bottom of the grill. I'm not going to count out the amount of charcoal, the number of briquettes. I don't do it that way. I've been doing this so long that, or not the grilling, but I'm used to kind of feeling by hand, seeing what I need. So, a nice little pile there. Now, I'm going to kind of organize this pile. And the reason you want to organize the pile, there's a couple reasons. You want your coals to catch kind of evenly. You want them to catch in a way that is not leaving you having to restart or relight various coals. And also with a bigger grill, I'll say this, with a bigger grill, you have the option of banking your coals and having them burn on one side of your grill, and then you can cook either with the direct flame or with the indirect heat on the other side of the grill. So if my coals are in the back half of my grill and my front half is empty, I've created a fire with two zones in it for cooking. So you can use your indirect heat for cooking and your fire for doing a little blackening or searing, whatever you like. I'm going to tuck in a couple of these chimney starters, and it may be that some sighted folks out there will see what I'm doing and want to give me some hints or tips or tricks. I don't claim to know everything about what I'm doing, but I do claim to know enough to get myself into trouble. Now these fire starters, what I've got here is just a little clump of, it feels kind of like hay. What do you say?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like hay. I don't think it's been doused in lighter fluid, although I'd have to read the box. I'm going to use two of them here. Tuck them in at different places. Now I'm going to start by adding a little bit of a little bit of lighter fluid to the mix. Not as much as I would use if this were not pre-soaked charcoal. But before I start setting fire, I'm also going to set the grill. On the bottom of the grill there are two vents, one on each side. Those vents are for controlling the amount of air that flows. The more air that flows through the grill, the hotter the fire is going to be, the longer it's going to burn. When it comes time for shutdown, we close all the vents. So right now I've got them open because I want fire. And I think I'm about to get it. Got a bottle of lighter fluid here. It's a flip-up cap. How do I do this? All right, I live dangerously, so I can orient myself. I am touching the bottle to the side of the grill. I can pour, squirt. I know it's coming out. I can feel it with my hand. Okay, let's say that's probably enough for government work. Hint, I would not recommend touching the hand that I have just poured lighter fluid on to the flames. I don't recommend that at all. Okay? So you'll probably note that the lighter is now in my left hand. Okay. At least until my right hand doesn't have fumes coming off of it. So now I'm just gonna find a spot in the charcoal here, and I'm gonna strike the lighter. Now the lighter, most of these lighters have a double control system on there. There's a trigger on the bottom and there's a lever on the top. You have to flip both in order to get a flame. I think that's a safety feature. And let me tell you, when I was lighting my first fire, that was a pain in the butt to figure that out. I mean, I cannot even tell you how frustrating that was. I probably used some regrettable language. Okay, now, how am I doing this? I am touching the tip of the lighter to the chimney starter, and I've got the chimney starter. It's kind of tucked into some coal here. And come over a little bit. Now, okay, I'm trying to light a fire. How do I know when the fire is lit? Good question.
Follow-up question: does the lighter work?
I think it still does. Oh, yeah.
Hey!
Yes, we have fire. Now, I know that the fire has lit. There are two ways that I can know this. The most obvious way is now I'm getting a bunch of heat. Okay, so I'm going to move out of the way of where the fire started. Okay. Second way that I know this is I can hear the sound of the flames. Okay, right now it is not particularly safe for me to approach because the fire is fresh. Now, what's going to happen once we get all of the coals blazing? What's going to happen is that the fire is going to burn down until the coals are covered in like a gray-white ash. That's kind of what you want. Now, for the blind, how do we know that? How I know that is time. Okay? When I have the fire going, when I have it lit through as many coals as I am sure that I can handle, I will set a timer on my iPhone, probably 15 minutes. And then we will kind of see where we are. Sometimes on a windy day, you can have a problem with your initial flames going out. Sometimes you can have a problem with only part of your coal getting lit. Now what I'm going to do now, before I ask my friend any questions, I am locating the grill, not with my bare hand because I'm not an idiot, usually. I'm locating it with the tip of my lighter. I'm raising my other hand over the fire, and it's about a foot, maybe 15 inches over the fire. What am I doing? I am checking, okay, where is the fire? How high are the flames? Right now, I believe I have some very high flames, but only in the front half of the grill. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
It also keeps blowing the wind, so
Yeah, so
it keeps moving.
I'm probably gonna have to.
Oh, I would definitely move the lighter fluid bottle very carefully. Hey, nailed it.
Right.
Perfect.
Actually, let's get that off the table.
Probably a good idea.
I'd like to think so.
I was like, the flames are going that way now.
Okay, so what we're waiting for is for the flames to die down just a little bit. I'm gonna check the coals here in a few. I'm guessing that maybe not all the coals got evenly lit, or If they did, that's fine. If they didn't, I would simply strike a spark in a different section of the coals. But we may not have to do that.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
So now I'm going to set a timer on my iPhone. Set timer for 15 minutes. For the next 15 minutes, I'm gonna let the fire burn down, settle down, catch those coals, and hopefully in about 15 minutes we'll be ready to rock and roll, and we'll talk about, how do I get food on there? How do I cook? Okay? So it'll be just a few minutes. All right, it's about time to start cooking. Now, it took about 30 minutes to get that particular fire right where we want it. And now we have gray ash. Okay, we have the kind of ash that we want. Again, I didn't handle the charcoal to just see how ashy it was because I am crazy, but not very crazy. So what I'm doing is I'm tapping the charcoal, this time with tongs. The charcoal has a soft give to it, and I'm guessing that what I'm actually touching is the ash from the charcoal and the wood chips that have burned. I can also feel, again, tapping around, I feel over the surface of the grill. I have a lower, even flame, almost even anyway, close enough for government work. Okay, so this fire is ready for cooking. Now for one of the more interesting, dangerous parts of the operation. Dangerous even if you can see what you're doing. Now I'm going to put the rack, remember that cooking rack that sits on top? I'm going to put that on the grill, okay? Now, if I just picked it up and whoop, dropped it onto the grill, I might hit it unevenly, and then I would have to decide, oh, do I want to just nudge that thing into place with my fingers? Well, again, I'm crazy, but not quite that crazy, if that makes sense. So I'm going to grip this round rack between my grilling tongs. I've got the rack gripped between the tongs, and I'm gonna find the grill both with my tong hand. So I found the grill. I can feel that my rack is not quite there. My other hand is on the rack, is not yet in contact with the grill, so I'm not quite there yet. We're gonna slide, from my perspective, it would be sliding forward. Okay, now I'm taking my other hand away from the grill because my right hand would have been burning there in a minute. Let's take the tongs away. And now we're just going to touch a little. Okay. I don't see the rack overhanging the lip of the grill. And yes, I'm doing quick taps with that. We didn't quite get it centered the way we wanted. I'm just going to check the rack. Oh, that's the problem. I want this bar to run in the opposite direction, so I'm going to pull this away from the flames. And we're just going to grip it from a different angle. And yes, it is very, very hot right now. So all the touching I'm doing is very lightly on the surface, and I'm going to grip it with tongs. Again, actually, oh, there's the problem. And this bar, this horizontal bar needs to be facing down. So the problem we're having is that I did not have my grill rack, my cook rack, oriented correctly. It has to be oriented properly for it to fall just so. And I do not believe that I did that properly. So we're going to flip, and right now I have it off the grill. I'm gonna flip it over. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna flip it over. And now not all cook racks are identical, so yours might be a little different. This is just how mine is. And let's get it back in the tongs here. And we're gonna bring it back along, find the grill, and do whatever adjusting we have to do. Okay, so now we've got the temperamental cooking rack on. It's like a lesson in geometry to get that thing to sit right. But we have it on there, and for my purposes, it's important for me to know which way the cooking rack bars are going. Now, a cooking rack, think of it as like your oven rack, okay? You got some bars or some spaces in between. So if I don't know which way my bars are running, whether horizontally or vertically, or perpendicular I should say, if I don't know that and I'm cooking, let's say, sausage, what do you think's gonna happen? I'll tell you exactly what will happen, because I've had it happen. Sausage will fall through the hole in the racks and onto the coals. And then retrieving it and eating it gets really interesting. Now, today we're cooking chicken and steak, so that is less of a problem, but good orientation when you're cooking, good physical awareness, good spatial awareness of your environment is essential. With no further ado, we're going to start with the chicken. Set timer for 5 minutes. Let me just actually see whether one or both steaks will get on this grill. These are rather large ribeyes, and so it may be, given the size of this grill, it may be that I'll have to cook the steaks separately. And I could ask my sighted friend, but I'm not going to. I'm going to discover this for myself. My ruling is that I could maybe get one steak on there, but it would be extremely crowded. I certainly will not get both steaks on there with the chicken. Would you agree?
I would concur, yes.
Indeed. So I'm going to cook the chicken first, and then we will cook the steaks. Now I'm going to say a word about this chicken and this steak here. These are ribeyes that I got from Aldi. I got the chicken from Aldi too. Nice family pack. Marinated the chicken in lemon juice, threw on some salt, pepper, and rosemary. And the chicken is for my wife, who is more of a chicken lover than a steak lover. The steak, one steak at least, is for me. And then the other is for my videographer buddy here.
Yes, we pay with food.
I am totally okay with
We
it.
really do. I mean, Alexis and I have this habit of doing these massive projects together, and then I end up feeding her at odd hours. I think the last time we made a video, we were done by midnight, and I said, let's go to IHOP.
Because IHOP was the only thing that was open. We need to get you like a, what is it,
An
an
apron.
apron.
Yeah.
Like world best chef.
I'll get you a apron for Christmas.
There you go.
A man apron.
A apron.
That's what I was afraid of. So I'm gonna tap the chicken. Actually, I think I'm gonna rearrange the chicken a little bit. I don't recommend doing that at home. For the benefit of the blind, I found one slice of chicken breast that I wanted to move. Since it's not actually hot yet, I just picked it up by the cold side and moved it. Okay?
He likes living dangerous.
I do. I'm charcoal grilling. Of course I like living dangerous.
Living on the edge.
Right? I just didn't say the edge of what.
The grill.
Right? Sanity. So now I'm going to flip each piece of chicken. And in order to do that, it involves finding it. Okay, so I've found piece number 1. Flipped. I actually meant to rip and flip, but that didn't quite work.
Grip and flip.
Flip and flip.
You should tag that phrase.
Actually, I can't. It's already been patented.
Oh, what a bummer.
Final piece of chicken. Lift. This one doesn't.
That's a big one.
This one will not play.
For everybody's info, I hate doing this, even in a skillet, and I like cooking. I'm pretty comfortable in the kitchen, but I hate doing this.
You hate flipping the chicken?
I hate flipping meat, yes.
Got the meat fillet.
Well, and with a skillet, you have all like the oils and stuff popping up, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like
Set timer
I'm
for
definitely
5
more likely to
minutes.
get burned.
It's probably going to require 10 to 12 minutes on each side So this raises the question of how do I know when the meat is done?
Pretending that I'm not here.
Pretending that my buddy is not here, which usually she is not, and I cook meat all the time. In an ideal world, I would own a talking meat thermometer, and I would use it to check the internal temperature of the meat and verify that it's at least 160 degrees. This is not an ideal world, and I melted our last meat thermometer.
I was wondering if you were going to mention that.
Yeah, I was trying to check a temperature, and I guess it wasn't rated for 1,000 degrees. I don't know. Unfortunately. So how am I going to do this? I am going to check by touch.
Ooh.
And here's how I'm going to do this. Now, I raise my hand here. Let's use the palm of my hand as an example. If I touch my thumb to my pointer finger, the surface of my palm is soft and loose. If your meat is soft and loose, this is not done. If I touch to, say, my ring finger, the surface of my palm has more tension to it, my meat is closer. Probably means my steak is about medium. If I touch to my pinky, the surface of my palm is very tight, my muscles are flexed, not a lot of give there. That's probably a well-done steak, or in this case, cooked chicken. So I'm not going to take the chicken off the grill until it feels like my palm does if my thumb is touching my pinky. And with chicken, I'm really going to check the away from the edges. We don't want to kill anybody with undercooked chicken, so I actually cut this chicken breast into thirds, roughly. And roughly, that'll make the whole process a little easier. And right now, we're just standing around and I'm listening to it cook, smelling it cook, and just tapping the chicken. We're going to do 5 more minutes on each side. That's going to require flipping. Actually, let me flip first and set the timer later. So for the benefit of my visually impaired audience, I was flipping the pieces of chicken with my tongs. I was using my hands to actually check their positions on the grill. And again, remember what I said about tapping the charcoal or tapping the grill. The meat is not as hot as the surface that's under it yet. So I can touch the meat. Touch, touch, touch. Touch, 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 touch. And the meat, you know, I don't want to leave my finger there very long, but I can touch the meat. I can, you know, move this chicken breast a little bit. Actually, I'm not going to because I like where it is. I can touch the grill. You see, my hand is actually making contact with the grill. All right, so the chicken is just about done. Now this last piece over here, this bigger piece, it is not quite done. Now, how did I know that? I know that because as I touch it, it has more give than it ought to. And I suspect that if I could see it, I'd probably see that it was the wrong color. So it is not quite done. I'm gonna move it kind of to the center, and I'm gonna flip it. For the record, I did just use my bare hands to grab, move, and flip chicken. This is not blind home economics recommended, but so if you would rather grab your spatula, it's probably a good idea. Okay, so the chicken is off the grill and is being consumed. It's not, we're not going to all be eating at the same time, clearly.
That is A-okay.
I'm really sorry, guys.
I'm just feeling my fire. Still got a good fire going. We're ready for some steak.
Woo woo.
Now I've got these 1 pound ribeyes. Let me just show this bad boy.
He's ginormous.
Yeah. We're going to set one on the back of the grill. In fact, let's kind of rub the grate a little bit, get some of that moisture on there. That'll, again, topping the grill, topping the steak, a little orientation. That is on the rack. Now, with the size of this grill, I don't exactly get an option as far as where to put these steaks because I don't have a very large cook surface. True. That's okay. I'm gonna kind
It's left and right or up
of
and
up and
down.
down. I've got about an inch of space between, and as this cooks, it's gonna kind of shrink down a little bit, just a little bit. Now, this is very thick, very big cuts of meat here, so. Set timer for 6 minutes.
Okay, 6 minutes and counting.
Now those are probably not going to get flipped by hand because they're so huge. Steak is ready to come off the grill. Can we get that plate?
Oh, sorry.
I got
Sorry.
you over here.
I was just like off somewhere daydreaming.
Now, this other steak.
Oh, here.
This other steak is still a bit more tender, probably because it didn't get heated quite the way I wanted it to. So we're gonna move it.
It also looks a little bit thicker, maybe. I can't
Probably
tell.
is. Yeah, I mean these cuts aren't identical. So I've moved it and I have flipped it. I'm gonna move it over here where some of the best heat is. We're gonna give it 3 minutes on that side, maybe 3 on the other. See what that does. Okay, so this last steak is coming off the grill. Need the plate. Just hold it up there and I'll get to it in a second. Now the grill is definitely not as hot as it was.
Yeah, I noticed it wasn't sizzling anymore. I was curious
It's to your
about
left.
that.
Yeah, I've kind of got some stacked steak there. Yeah, part of it is, I mean, the fire's been burning for so long, but it burned long enough to do the job. That's what we want. Now, the question is, how do we shut it down? Okay, first thing we do, now the grill, like I said, is definitely not as hot as it was, so now I'm using my hands to shut the vents, one on each side. Cuts off the airflow to the grill. Now, let me find my lid. There it is. I'm gonna put the lid on. Maybe we don't have a lot of wind over the grill, and we're going to check this vent here. That's closed. Okay, so the grill is gonna cool down now. Now I'm going to leave the grill outside to cool down, but I'm gonna take it off the table just so that other people can use it if they want. I'm gonna set it down here on the ground. I'm going to leave it to cool down naturally. In a few hours, I will come out and walk the grill over to the dumpster, dump out the ash, and then bring the rest of the grill, bring the grill back inside for wash up. So now we are ready to pick up, clean up, and go inside and have some food.